All right, folks, it's been a while, but we're back after a short hiatus.
Of 27 years.
Not that short, but yeah, we're back. But we did enjoy a film today.
27-year-old film. I forgot my line last time, so I'm just overcompensating for it.
Yeah, it appears so, and it's not good.
It's not.
It's not. This is the worst intro yet.
It's pretty good.
No, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty here.
We've already done it a lot, so let's just get into it.
If you clicked on this, it's because of the title. Definitely not because of us. And we went and saw It today. Stephen King's It, the new adaptation of the classic novel that just about everybody knows. Even though apparently a lot of people haven't read it.
Clearly.
Because they were like very pissed off.
I was in that group, but I actually heard it. Heard.
I mean, it counts.
It counts.
But yeah, man. So you recently enjoyed the novel for the first time in your life. It's been one of my favorites. Yeah, it's been one of my favorites for forever. So I was very much anticipating this film, and I think a lot of people were. The hype was pretty astronomical for a horror film. You know, that's pretty unusual. But yeah, did it live up to the hype? Let's talk about that right now. What did you think? What's your overall impression before we get into the intricacies of it, if you will? What was your take?
I liked it. There's a lot of difference from the book and the original adaptation, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I gotta say this is a rare film, and what I mean by that is this is one of those films that I've seen that is separate from most in terms of it actually improves on the source material, in my opinion. Which is unusual for an adaptation of a book. Usually when you adapt something, you either end up missing a lot of the substance, or things don't translate well, or what have you. Or best case scenario, something like Fight Club, you basically just make the book, and what you add is visual flair or the director's taste. But this one is unique. It's one of those few exceptions to the rule where, short of you being anal about it being a word-for-word, page-for-page adaptation, there is no way you can deny that there is a lot of stuff here that vastly improves on what is there, and does it with respect to the material that was offered up originally. So the changes come as pleasant surprises, or just just stuff that you can't help but enjoy one way or another, or appreciate one way or another. And I mean, at least that was my experience watching it. I don't know, I know you read the book more recently than I did. I don't know if that was the same impression you got, but
it's just we'll get into it.
Yeah. So but yeah, let's start off on that stuff. There is, if you've read the book and you want a page for page adaptation, you're not going to get that. You're definitely not going to get that.
It's close though.
It's very close. But I think what's most important is that the spirit of the book is intact, if not stronger in some points, which is super important, because that's something the original TV miniseries lacked. I mean, it was there, but then it would kind of stumble with it because, budgetary reasons or what have you. This, it didn't hold back. It didn't hold back from the gruesomeness, and I'm not just talking about gore. I'm talking about the nature of things, of the creature itself and what it does. And most importantly, the people were really real. I mean, they felt real to me. Those kids were pretty amazing, man. It felt like actual kids, and they had the balls to actually have them act like actual kids. Kids talk about stupid bullshit and they cuss, and it wasn't Disney kids. This is how kids behave around each other. This is how friends behave around each other. So the relationships felt very real, which was really awesome to see. And yeah, they didn't pull back from. These are kids being victimized. They didn't hold back from that.
Which is from the opening. He rips George's freaking arm off.
Yes,
he's like crawling away in pain and shit,
which was amazing. I mean, I know a lot of people were. I was in a It group.
Actual losers, not losers club. Yeah, it's just a bunch of losers.
They were whining about, oh, why is Georgie taken away? That's stupid. His arm should only be ripped off. First of all, it's used brilliantly. It's used as the motivation for Bill to be so involved You know, it spurs along the events a little faster. You know, when the group gets together, they get together quicker because he's already in the search.
They do, yeah. That was instantly different. I was like, whoa.
Yes. And it was really good, man. Because they didn't skip on any of the character development. In fact, a lot of these characters are much more developed in certain ways than others. And then they found innovative new ways to say the same things or about them. And in terms of the scares, we're just gonna get this out there right now without spoiling. We're trying to spoil as less as possible here. But in terms of the scares, if you've read the book, the scares are completely different, with the exception of one or two.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's some that are from the book that weren't in the TV series, like the leper is there. But for the most part, yeah, they're different.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the leper.
But they're done cool. I actually really like that little bit in the beginning where it kind of shows them their encounters with the it, as I'll call it from now on. I'll just gonna call it once because it sucks. Separate, which was really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you get that in the book too, but
yeah.
neatly done.
The encounters are vastly different, but they're more relevant to the characters.
Yeah,
and that's what's
one of those things. We're not gonna see a big ass Rodan in this.
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable why King, of course, approached the scares in a more traditional fashion in the book, but in this update, it updates that and makes them more relevant specifically to the characters, and that's really important because the scares become part of the character development for these characters. It tells you something about them. It lets you know their reactions, their feelings, etc., depending on the character, of course. And certain characters get a lot more substance, like Mike and Stanley, and yet are still kind of like the secondary characters that they are in the book, but they get a little bit more substance, and certain things are communicated in different ways. For example, the history of the town is more communicated through Ben and his research than through, the traditional way in the book, which is Mike's research. Little things are tweaked, but they're expertly tweaked to where you get the heft and entirety of their story in new and innovative ways. Yet, I think you'll agree with me, it's still the same basic structure that fans of it are familiar with.
Yeah,
it's still there, and that's why I say this is such a rare case of a movie taking what they did is they stripped the book to the core essence and structure.
Which is kind of necessary because and baby's like 15 Bibles thick.
True, but they stripped it down to its core essence, and then they built on that rather than just keeping it stripped like the TV miniseries. They built on that, and they used, their imagination in fantastic ways. But let's get down to certain details. Okay, let's talk about the actors in general, be them the kids, Pennywise, etc. What was your overall impression?
Well, when you have kids in films,
it's always a risk.
It's pretty risky. We could have a Jake Lloyd situation.
We don't want that.
Thankfully, we didn't. I thought they were all pretty good. Some better than others, but most of them were really good. I liked Pennywise.
Yes.
Pennywise's portrayal is very... I don't want to say it's different because it's very close to the book. He's kind of takes the Tim Curry-esque like mocking, only it's creepier and more like it's more obvious that he's doing it for fear to feed on.
Yes.
In this than it is in the miniseries, which you do get in the miniseries, but it's a lot more obvious.
It's more vague in the miniseries, and that was super important, and it ties into something later.
And it makes more sense why you wouldn't just kill him like right away.
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, okay, it's because of this.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was great that they actually communicated that clearly without being blunt about it. And it ties in later. I won't ruin it, but towards the end of the film, you get a real impression of Pennywise feeling fear.
Yeah.
Which, considering the way they did the final standoff, was super important. I was liking the final standoff, and I'm like, if they don't achieve this, then it'll not have the impact it should.
That's really important in the book.
And they did. and it was awesome, man. I was so pleased because I was so pleased up to that moment, and I was like, man, if they don't get this one thing right, but you feel it, you feel that he felt fear, and
I will say that they do a lot of that. Like, you get the point of what they're trying to say. Even I don't know how it would be for someone who hasn't read the book, but you get what they're trying to do without them being like, oh, without them having to explain, oh, those are the deadlights.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then, like, in that scene with the fear, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Without them having to be like, oh, look, he's spooked.
Yeah. It was exceptional in the way it did that. Also, another thing that I really enjoyed that ties into that particular scene, we'll get back to the actors right now, just before I forget, is the way they actually utilized the themes of them being together being super important towards the end here in the final confrontation, which I think you'll agree with me in the book. I mean, it's done for a reason in the book, but it's more Bill's fight in the book than it is the entire group's. And here it's the entire group's fight through and through. You know, you feel the impact of everybody. And it also had a scene, you know, the standard, I guess you can call it the Sleeping Beauty scene. You know, we've seen a lot of movies where a kiss makes all the difference in the world. Here, that scene is the first time I've seen that scene where it made sense and it had impact, and it made a very important point that in the book is made in a very different way, shall we say, orgy. But and it tied into what happens to Beverly. I won't ruin that either. But yeah, all that stuff worked fantastically. On my end of the spectrum, in terms of the actors, getting back to that, I found them all fantastic. They were great. I really love these kids, man. They really were I mean, across the board for me, fantastic. I mean, none of them were bad actors. The only one that you could say was a little bit rigid was Georgie, but he's a little kid.
Yeah, and actually, I thought they used some of his
awkwardness.
Yeah, kind of well. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh man, I can't believe the meat puppet thing actually was there, because we saw glimpses of it in the trailer, and I was unsure whether they were actually going to have a hand up an ass, sort of, for lack of better words. But that was a little intense. I was like, whoa.
There's several moments where it's like, wow, they actually did that.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing that a company actually allowed them to do this.
Warner, a big one too.
Yeah, no shit. But yeah, anyway, okay, so the actors across the board for me were great. Let's talk about that related to the actors and the characters. There was also a lot of complaints from people about Henry Bowers being bare bones and this and that. I have to disagree myself. I think
they kind of, in a way, they kind of rolled up Patrick's role in the book and melded it with Henry, because he seems more just evil in this.
Yes, he seems a lot more vicious, a lot more.
Which was kind of like, you know, in the book he's a little bit tragic, and then he kind of becomes like, okay, where's this going? You know what I mean? So in this one, I thought he actually had more of a kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of messed up.
Yeah, and I think it really sets up potential for if they do decide to go the route of what the book did, where they bring him in later. I can't imagine them not doing that. It sets up a lot more by having him do a lot more and having him be more like Patrick than anything.
They do really play into the Pennywise, like, using him thing.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that, how they did the show thing. Like, if, you know, that's how he controls him or whatever. But earlier in the movie, in the background, you hear it playing, and it's telling, like, in the show, it's telling, like, it's fun to play in the sewers.
Yeah.
Go with your, you know, like, you can feel the influence of Pennywise.
And that actually brings to mind this. In this movie, you actually feel the presence of it the influence of it on the town of Derry. And it's done in a very subtle at times, and kind of everything has like an ominous lining to it. You know, when they go to the pharmacist and the pharmacist talks to Beverly, there's an ominous tone to the way he's behaving around her. Her dad is much more menacing And it's a lot more clear where, you know, things were going.
I mean, it's touched upon in the book, but
it's never concretely
It was
expressed.
Pretty uncomfortable in the movie, actually.
It was, man. And it goes, you know, and it's always a theme in the background, which I found beautiful because that's something that the TV series definitely lacked. It didn't show you the influence of it on the people, even the adults.
Yeah.
But the movie, I mean, it was great. I was really pleased with that. And oh yeah, somehow I skipped over this, but yeah, Pennywise. I mean, we all love Tim Curry, but there's no comparison here. This guy just pretty much owned the role. But anyway, let's get back to the stuff, the soundtrack. What did you think about the soundtrack? Now there is a mixture of score with a soundtrack. You know, there's certain musical selections thrown into the mix.
Well, from what I can remember of the score, it was good. But I can't really pinpoint anything right now. I will say that this is a movie. I just burped, by the way. This is a movie I'm gonna have to rewatch.
Yes.
Because I was a little tired, and there's kind of a lot to take in. Not necessarily with, you know, what's being said, but like it just seems like one of those movies you have to see more than once to appreciate it fully.
Really. I mean, I was fully alert and enjoying every fucking second of it. But the whole time I'm like, man, I got to see this again to really digest because it's so rich with everything that's on the screen.
Especially because some of the changes, especially since I just finished the book like a week ago maybe or two, some of the changes were a little like, well, that's weird. Like Mike being changed, his role being changed, I found a little weird. Not bad, mind you. It's just since I'm used to those characters in this situation, I was definitely like, I might have to rewatch this to get out of that mindset.
I had the benefit of reading the Dauberman draft of the script, which this is very close to.
So you kind of had an idea going in.
But I'll say this. This was very close to it, but man, it's an improvement. And you know that I loved that draft of the script. I was like, man, they really did a fantastic job with getting the themes through and just being creative with what they had. And I will say this: it's a big improvement on that draft, which I absolutely loved, and they really added meat and substance to it, which was awesome. But yeah, let's get back on track here. My thoughts on the score and soundtrack were it's a great score. Again, a little bit distracted by how much was on the screen to really latch onto it. But there were moments.
There was moments that I do remember that were good.
Yes, the moments where we were like, okay, we can listen to the score and not focus on so much awesomeness. It really was a rich score and really nice, moody, atmospheric. And then the touches of the soundtrack.
They were
really,
fine,
you know, they were fun. And sometimes they were used in a very fun way, and sometimes they were used, you know, just to give you a presence of the time period. But yeah, man,
it didn't come off like cringy or anything.
It came off really well. Okay, let's talk the effects. Now, there were some complaints from some losers out there, and not the cool kind of losers, that this was CGI heavy and unconvincing. Look, some of this stuff cannot be achieved without CGI. You know, they could have gone practical, but this was relatively low budget for, you know, considering what was needed. That being said, I thought the CGI almost across the board was pretty exceptional, and
I can't really think of a moment that I was like, oh, it looks like shit.
Yeah, it was all really good, and you know, even when it wasn't like, oh, that's a physical thing that I can touch. I mean, I don't want to say it that way. I will say when it wasn't completely convincing, it actually helped to create the illusion of this is, you know, a construct of Pennywise.
Yeah, especially towards the end during the little confrontation. Yeah, in which you do get a little bit of a hint of the spider thing, where he's got the little hands. But I thought that was cool. I thought the effects were good.
Yeah, the effects were really great.
The leper looks pretty much looks exactly like he does in the book.
Yeah, that
like
was
down to the nose and the eyes.
That was amazing, man. I love the I don't know who the actor was, but his body movements.
Yeah.
He was just a vile motherfucker. Yeah, it was fantastic effects throughout. They do use a lot of physical effects, which is good. And you know, when needed, they use CGI, and they look good for the most part. You know, so I found absolutely no complaint with that. As apparently neither did you. So you know, I guess, you know, if you're touchy, then you're gonna be touchy. But whatever.
Yeah, you might cry about
Now, speaking of touchy, some people were like, "This thing is full of jump scares." What the fuck are you? There's a few, but they're mandated, you know. Like,
yeah, it's not like fake ass shitty ones.
Yeah, this is not a cat jumping out of a cupboard. This is they either build up to it. It
carries through with the scare. It's not just like, oh, there's a cat.
Yeah, they either build up to it or it's a legitimate. You earned this fucking scare, like the projector scene. The way it concludes.
That was. Now I will say that. I guess we could disclose or not or kind of like whatever. We're horror veterans, I guess, so we're not easily spooked, right?
Right.
I could say that I really wasn't spooked by anything in the movie, like jump scary, but you know it's cool. Projector thing got me a little bit because it was really cool. The way it was presented was really cool.
I wasn't startled like you said, like it makes you kind of jump, but there was moments where I was like, whoa, you know, like literally like, whoa, man, that's. I haven't seen that before, or that's an interesting way to do it, you know. There was never a moment, I don't know if this was the case with you, where I felt like I had predicted something. And that's kind of weird because, one, I read the book and I read those several drafts of the script, and there was never a moment where I was like, whoa, you know, I saw that coming a mile away. No, it still felt very fresh and new to me.
Yeah, which I guess was kind of what got me with the projector scene. I wouldn't say it was scary. It was just like, oh shit, that's interesting. Yeah. It wasn't just like a little spook, and then it was like an actual. I don't want to ruin what happens, but something happens.
It's awesome to say the least. Okay, so what do we got covered here? We got that. We got that. We got that. Pretty much got everything right there. So let's talk about anything you disliked.
No, I don't want to say disliked anything. Again, I have to rewatch the movie. Because I'm so used to the way the book is. I mean, I spent over freaking 40 hours with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to say anything's bad. I will say that, but saying that, in my current state, without rewatching it and getting used to it, I thought Mike's changing the change in Mike's role was a little weird, because it kind of like, you know, takes his role away.
It does. I mean, you could see why they did that. They used it to get other points across, and they actually made his role at the end a lot more integral, which was important. But yeah, it is a dramatic shift of what his role is.
Mind you, it makes sense because in the book, Ben, right? Ben Hanscom, he's obsessed with going to the library. So they tied it into that, and it actually makes sense the way they did it.
Yes, it helped expedite things a lot more through Ben.
But you know, if you're used to those characters in that way, you might have to get used to some of the stuff because there is a lot of changes.
It might ultimately benefit my character in part 2.
Yeah.
Because he is kind of the keeper of the lighthouse, you know, so he'll take on the roles of the others in some respects. So it might actually benefit a lot. Yeah, but I could see that jarring change. But you wouldn't say it's bad. You just say it's something to get used to.
And then like towards the end, you know, I don't know if they're gonna do the deadlight stuff, the turtle shit through Beverly. Maybe
they do hint at that stuff. And apparently that is the case. You know, they are going to explore the cosmic side of things in part 2, which in discussions with Senor Spielbergo, who was going to do this review with us, but he you know, he has to see the movie later. It's best that they keep that stuff for part 2. You know, if you're really going to divide this stuff, it is best. And
there's hints in there.
Yeah, they laid enough stuff there for them to work with. It's a fertile ground for sure. And so in terms of me, I love this thing across the board, man. I can't even find a damn fault with it. It was fantastic. This is one of those films that, considering how much expectation, considering how much I love the book, and how many years I've been waiting for something to adapt it and do it justice, and considering how much they, and I say change not in the bad way, but how much they approach the material in a different yet completely soluble way. I can't believe how pleased I am at this. It is fantastic for me from top to bottom. The kids are amazing. Everybody, I mean, I thought I was going to be annoyed by Richie. I don't know why. I just had a bad feeling. He was fucking funny, dude. People were laughing in the theater, and rightfully so. You know, he was a funny kid. Beverly felt like that friend that you fall in love with as a kid. Everybody just felt real. Bill felt like a leader. Everything.
I won't want to say it's a problem because it's actually a cause of how good the movie is, but it felt like it went really fast, and I kind of wanted more with the kids. But it's not a fast movie. I mean, it's 2 hours.
It's 2 hours and a half.
It just feels like it goes really fast, and so I wanted more with the kids, even though you get 2 hours of it.
Yeah,
and it's all in there. It's all in there in a way. I mean, they cut like the movie stuff, but it's not really important in this version of the movie.
It really is the kids' movie. I mean, they kept Pennywise to the scenes that he needs to be in and he should be in. He's not in your face 24/7.
While actually increasing his appearances. Really.
Yes, of course. I mean, Tim Curry was barely in the fucking miniseries. But yeah, man. I think that's just a symptom of you wanted to be in this.
Which is why I'm saying, like, I'm not going to say it's a problem.
Yeah,
especially because I want
definitely not a problem.
Especially when because I have to see it again with some of this stuff. So I'm not going to say it's a problem, but it does leave you wanting more, which I guess is good for a movie that's going to have a sequel.
Yes, for a 2.5 hour movie, this thing goes by fast, and again, not in a bad way. You're like, wow, man, that's how good it is. It engages you so much that it doesn't even feel like that much time passed. And then but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happens to me every time I read the book. I'm like, man, I wish I could be longer in these characters' lives.
I just hope
that's the same feeling.
I hope in the sequel. This mask is really itchy, in case you're wondering why I keep scratching. Anyway, I just hope that they do touch more on the Pennywise stuff, because it's only kind of mentioned, and there's more of it. Like his grasp is felt more heavily through history.
Yes.
But I do want them to explore that a little more, because it does feel a little lacking in this movie right now. But I think that's because they're saving it to the sequel.
Yeah, if this were a standalone movie, I still wouldn't have a problem with that. I see what you're getting at. I mean, I understand what you're getting at. And in terms of the cosmic thing.
And some of the cosmic stuff doesn't make a lot of sense if you don't know what they're getting at. Yeah,
but it's not confusing.
It's not confusing at all.
If you haven't read the book, you're not going to be confused by the slight hints at the cosmic thing.
I think they beef out the what happens in the movie enough so that you get it.
Yeah.
But some of the cosmic hints, or like, for someone who's read the book, they're like, oh, this is going to be interesting how they're doing it. You definitely have to wait for the sequel for that.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing at all. It actually works as a standalone movie. So if the second one sucks ass, you're good.
Yeah, and that's it's definitely a tip of the hat to this movie. That if by chance the second one is not good, that's all right. This is a solid finisher. It's good. It's good,
they even do
if you really want to read if you really want to see a second half, and let's say the second one sucks, and you just want to finish the story, just read the fucking.
They even make it not super obvious that he's just hurt,
Yes.
Like, so that's good, because it is an ender if you need an ender. But there's enough of a hint there that he's still out there. You know what I mean? Like it seems like he's gone, but at the same time not. So it's good. They covered their asses on that end.
Yeah.
Where it seems like it might end, or it could be a good standalone movie if needed.
So yeah, I mean, top to bottom, for me, fantastic.
I really like the little manifestations of Essel, which were really cool.
All of them were. I mean, shit.
The way they do his teeth and like the weird distended face was really neat looking, because almost instantly the life goes away from his face and it's just like this creature, which you might say is because of the CG, but it actually looks it's good. It works for it.
Yeah.
It like completely destroys his humanity, whatever little there is. It just makes it into this grotesque creature, and it looks really cool. Some of the like I said, some of the scares are really cool. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, fantastic. Very original, despite being based on something. And
the Mummy makes an appearance, actually.
Yeah, there was a bunch of little cool nods to stuff, like the Beep Beep Richie line and stuff like that. There was cool nods to stuff that wasn't there.
It wasn't like freaking Dark Tower.
Oh yeah, it was definitely not that. But so yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, short of you being anal about it, I can't imagine somebody that's read the book not liking this. If you were just unfamiliar with it, or if you've just seen the miniseries, go see this. it's a hell of an experience. We will be seeing it again. And anyway, this is a glowing recommend here. This has been Ahab and the Goon Tick signing out.